again. Good morning. Okay. Okay, good morning, everybody. Happy Chamisha Asa B'Shvat. A new tree for years. A new tree for years. A new year for trees and for the tree inside of us. For the trees inside of us. Ha'adam Eitz Asad. Okay, we are up to Ois Vav in the contrast of Basi Legani. This is Shir number 10. Number 10, hopefully the final one. I can't call it the final one, but at least in this phase, the final one.
So good, maybe hopefully not. Can go forever.
That's true. Until you undo the tzimtzum, you can go forever. Until you undo it completely. And then you could actually go forever. The one who sends me the dedications, who dedicated, said, one last time, say it with feeling. One last time with, you know how in camp they say, the second time for points. So this series is dedicated gratefully La'ela Nishmas, Harav Hagon, Harav HaChassid, Reb Shnei Chaim HaKoyen Gutnik, Ben Harav Hagon, Harav HaChassid, Reb Mordechai Ze'ev HaKoyen Gutnik. Tehei Nishmasam Tzrura, B'Tzrur HaChaim. And thank you very, very much for your partnership. Dedicated by a member of the family who is anonymous. Also dedicated by Reb Ezra David Philip to the Rebbe and his Shluchim for creating a revolution to bring Mashiach now. Amen. Thank you very, very much. Reb Ezra David. Okay, so we are up to Ois Vav, the second to the last Ois. In the contrast, it's page Yutes. So after we learned at length in the previous classes the idea of the tzimtzum, Shaloi Kipshutai. Now Shaloi Kipshutai, not literal, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It means that you have to be able to see not only the chitzonius of it, not the external dimension of it, but the pnimius of it. What is inside of it? What is behind it? What is its purpose? What is its message? What is the invitation that it brings? What is its raison d'etre? What is its ultimate goal? Yeah. In Sif Hey, he said, and this was the big discussion, both in terms of the original light, so to speak, the infinite light, and in terms of the finite light, the way it's communicated, with all the limitations and changes that happen. Or in the language of the Maimer, that Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi is not only in Etzem, but it's also in Oir, and not only in the Oir HaBligvul, but also in the Oir HaGvul. He says, but Sif Hey said, but nonetheless, after everything's said and done, this is all true, and this is all authentic. But nonetheless, the way it's manifested in the world intuitively there's a process of serious concealment. And on this, he went into the whole discussion, how even though every creature feels that it is alive and feels there is some life force, but nonetheless, there's not necessarily any knowledge or awareness or intuitive feeling that it's divine. Not only that, in our world, one can easily walk the planet saying the river is mine and I made myself, as Pare said. Or that it's all my own energy, my own strength, my own vigor. In other words, not only that the person feigns or displays ignorance and doesn't know, but not only that, they take the credit for themselves. It's not that the atheist says there's no God. The atheist says, I'm God. even if he doesn't use those words, because he's supposed to be an atheist. But energetically, it's not that there's no God, it's that there's always a God. It's just I replace him. My mind or my feelings or my desires become that. So it's not just the tzimtzum, where the light becomes filtered and condensed and concealed, like in the metaphor where the student receives only a array of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction, but that allows him to build capacity and to integrate it and to grow, and then after 40 years to find in that light the whole full depth. In our world, as the Baal Shem Tov said, it's not just that the Aleph gets dressed up in Beis, which gets dressed up in Gimel, which gets dressed up in Daled, all the way down to Taf. No, so that's the Taf. And from the Taf, you start climbing upward, Taf to Aleph. But it's the next pasuk. Va'aretz haisa sayu v'vayu v'chayshech al pnei sahim. Chaos and darkness. So here the metaphor with the student falls short, because here it's pure concealment. And on this he discussed at length a maimer of the Rebbe Maharash, Reb Shmuel, the son of the Tzemach Tzedek, the fourth Lubavitcher Rebbe. As I told you, the Maimonim of Basi Legani, he goes through all of the Nesiei HaChassidus, all of the Rebbes, each one as part of the build-up. So the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid, the Alter Rebbe, the Mittler Rebbe, Tzemach Tzedek was done earlier, all in the idea of Tzimtzum. And now he comes into the last phase of the Maimer, that the Rebbe Maharash explains how when you study the universe, one of the most extraordinary things that we discussed at length, we discussed it yesterday in terms of the four elements and in terms of the atoms, that the forces to be able to hold everything together, that force that holds everything together can't be only the details holding it together. Right? Eish, Ruach, Mayim, Afar, to come together, it can't be from the Eish itself or the Ruach itself. Or in the language of the atoms, when you have protons, you have neutrons, you have electrons, and some of these forces repel each other. And some things, something has to hold it all together. And you're not just talking about holding together, three little things. You're talking about a harmony and a holding together that on this is responsible, literally, all of our existence of matter. Everything would disintegrate momentarily and become kaput if every single atom was not literally held together constantly in a very, very intricate and precise way, demonstrating perfect precision and harmony, and that's even one atom. And here you're not talking about one, you're talking about numbers that we can't even begin to talk about because we don't even have our saga in the numbers. I mean, you're talking about numbers, and that's just in the pin of a needle, right, or the tip of a nail. Because everything, all of matter is built with atoms, and each atom on its own is literally a nest. It's the koyach hamarkev to keep it together. And literally, yeah. It's not like even you come into a company, you come into a big company and you see 100,000 machines that are all working in perfect precision with each other, each one independent of each other, and producing the same result, and there's nobody there. The fact that there's nobody there doesn't tell you that there's nobody who created it. It just tells you the guy is such a genius that with a joystick he's running it. The fact that there's nobody schwitzing and running around and you don't see him doesn't mean that, it must have happened on its own. It just tells you how brilliant this guy is. You understand? But here we come to the opposite conclusion. I don't see anybody. Okay, it must be on its own. It's the exact opposite. It just shows you the power of it, the depth of it, the intelligence of it. And that's just one atom, never mind all of them together, and that's just in one piece of matter. In one tiny, tiny particle of matter, a grain of sand, a flake of snow, a droplet of rain. Never mind when you talk about the entire planet and every creature in the planet, and then you talk about the universe. And then they have the atoms coming together, because every atom on its own is not doing it. They have the atoms coming together to create what we call molecules, which ultimately becomes the building blocks of all matter. So this is what the Rebbe Maharash is talking about, that this koyach hamarkev is not any individual item. It can't be an individual item. It's something that must transcend all of them to bring them together in that perfect harmony. And that's essentially the Dvar Hashem. It comes from the Dvar Hashem. And he uses the words of the Alter Rebbe that if the eye would have permission to see, In other words, if the eye was sensitive to the full fabric of reality, when it would look at anything, it wouldn't even see physical matter, it would see divine consciousness. That's what it would see. Not because physical matter is fiction, because the physical matter is the last manifestation of reducing consciousness into a particular version of reality, but that's the only thing our eyes pick up. And we know that even within the physical world, as we spoke yesterday, with the more instruments that are developed, more precise instruments and more subtle instruments, we get to see how little of the matter even that we see. Right? Even in the world of matter, in the world of only of Gashmis, where there's nothing else, we know that how little we see of that. And with all the technology that develops, already even in the last 150 years, you have the concept of X-rays and gamma rays and recently MRIs and all these things already takes us into a different realm. And of course the whole world of microscopes. But if you go further into the Geshem, at some point the ayin, he says, if it had permission, it wouldn't even see the chaymer. Why? Because it would just see that it's all consciousness being reduced. It's a certain version of how it's being manifested, but that's what our eye can pick up, can detect. And that's not a mistake. That's part of the purpose of creation. What?
We still don't know what electron is.
Right.
We can't pinpoint.
Yeah.
We know based on behavior that there must be something.
Right.
Our models work. But
Yeah.
pinpointing
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Right. Yeah. Till today, nobody knows what an electron is. All we could talk about are its symptoms. In other words, the results that come from it, and those results are real because they affect us. But to define what it is, nobody has ever seen electricity in their life. But we know it exists and nobody doubts it. Yet, with the electricity, nobody doubts that it exists, even though nobody can pinpoint what it is. With the kayach, the force that brings it all together here, maybe it doesn't exist. So the Rebbe Marash brings out that even though through his beinunus one should realize this, nonetheless the fact is that it doesn't work that way. Because there's a helem achar helem, there's a concealment after a concealment, to the point that you could say it's all liya oiri v'ani asisini. The person walks around attributing either in ignorance or much more attributing the power to themselves. And whenever anybody attributes any power, and we're talking literally any, emotional, intellectual, psychological, social, financial, to anything but the source, that's already a form of avodah zarah. It's a form of extricating yourself from the true oneness. But yet this is the reality of our world. And this is what the Baal Shem Tov says, that the Tzimtzum reaches a place where it becomes chayshach. It's pure darkness. And toyu, chaos, and vayu, desolateness. So this is where we come into the concept of Ein Sof, Lamaila, Maila Adin Ketz. What's Lamaila, Maila Adin Ketz? That it could be concealed higher and higher, which higher and higher means more concealed, more concealed. Helam acha helam, and ilui achar ilui, ad infinitum, to no end how much the concealment can be. Not just the concealment where it's filtered, where it's condensed, where it trickles down and drops, where it's only a little tiny ray and a little tiny fraction, as in all the metaphors we spoke about before. But to the point of ad ein ketz, there's no end to how concealed it can be. To the point that it can completely be hijacked. The entire divine reality can be hijacked by the human mind or the human ego or the human consciousness or the human fear and make it its own. So now here he comes to this last phase in the Maimer. This is going to be Sivav. So Mamshech Ba'Maimer, so the Rebbe Rayatz continues in the Maimer in the Basi Legani. The Kol Zeh Hu B'Koyach Ein Sof Lasses Halemes V'Estedim Ka'elu. For this, we must go from Oir, we must go back to Etzem. We must go back to the essence. That this is all in the Koyach Ein Sof, to create such types of concealments. The Kashem Shais Pashtus Ba'Oir. Ad HaMadreges HaYoser Achrenes B'Koyach Ein Sof Dafka, Shezawinyan Deir Ein Sof Lamata Adin Tachlis. Just as the hispashtus in the oir. Hispashtus means the extension, the expansiveness, the revelation of the light. Until the lowest levels, where it trickles out, the oir comes out even in the lowest spaces. Post tzimtzum. That comes from the Ein Sof. That's called oir Ein Sof, lamata ad ein ketz. Even in the lowest places, there's some symptom, there's some revelation, there's some manifestation and embodiment of Ein Sof. That's one direction. Hinei kamaykin exactly the same. Hu kayach Ein Sof hamalim u'master b'dibrei alemus v'esteidim, that conceals and eclipses with numerous concealments and blockages. Shazau inyan Ein Sof l'mayla adin ketz, and that's the Ein Sof l'mayla adin ketz, that it could go higher and higher, more concealed to no end. That's all the kayach of the Ein Sof. Or Mamshech, he continues, this is what. In other words, don't think that this concealment that we're talking about is a fluke. It's a random mutation that happened. The tzimtzum went wrong. You make an experiment and it goes wrong. It's like too much. Oops! I didn't mean that. The blockages. No. This is not a fluke. This is not a random thing. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, he had a good sense of humor. In his speeches, he was a brilliant man. So he once said that he doesn't understand. He says everything works out, but he doesn't understand why is it that Charles Darwin wasn't a Jew. He says he was such a good apikairis, such a level of apikairis usually belongs to the Jewish people. Sigmund Freud, Karl Marx, the biggest apikoursim in history are the Jews. Because, of course, they're fighting themselves. So he says he doesn't understand. Charles Darwin, who brought so much atheism and heresy into the world with the theory of evolution, why wasn't he Jewish? It just doesn't fit into the canon. He said it must have been a random mutation. That Darwin wasn't Jewish was a random mutation. He should have been. It's some fluke over there, yeah. So this is what he's saying now. Don't think, there's a whole system that we're explaining. And it all works, so to speak. Works, it doesn't work like mathematics, but it works. Huh?
It works amazingly if we would understand the precision of the world that it requires.
Yeah, you're right. If we would understand the fine-tuning and the constants and the precision, it's beyond incredible. Nobody even begins to imagine, even the biggest physicists, imagine the precision. Today, they're revealing more and more and more. The mind-staggering precision of things, all represented by this koyach hamarkev, things that hold it together. Even after, when they speak about the Big Bang, what had to happen in order that the universe, if it would expand a little faster, it would just explode into nothingness. If it would expand a little slower, the heat would completely destroy it. It would destroy itself inside of itself. It would crunch it, become French toast, or cosmic toast would be the right word, not French toast. There would be no France. So what's that balance of how fast and slow it has to expand? So you would think, okay, instead of going, 100,000 miles per hour, went 90,000 miles per hour. You're talking about a level of precision that it would be like 1 in gazillion times, gazillion quadrupled, another gazillion times to be able to get that right. So you would say, okay, we got lucky in one area, but there's numerous factors that you have to get it right on a level that statistically it's impossible. It's just like an example somebody wrote would be, what's that called? The kids make, you have to get it all even. Rubik's Cube. So it would be a blind person doing a Rubik's Cube for 90 years, 100 times a day, and every time getting it right. That's doable. That's a bad metaphor. Or another metaphor I saw from scientists would be, you tell somebody, or somebody said this, you tell somebody that you have to go and find a grain of sand and lift it up, and it's one particular grain of sand. It's somewhere on the planet, we can't tell you where. And if you get the right one, the world will survive. And if not, it's going to be destroyed. and he manages to get the right grain of sand, and then he has to do this 200 million times, and each time get the right grain of sand. And you say, oh, he didn't have inside information. It was just luck. And even that is not close to how much precision and crazy insanity to say that this just happened. And this is all fact. This is not religion at all. This is from a purely cosmological perspective, devoid of any faith whatsoever. So and these are things that Mamish revealed in the last years. This is because it's as they see more, like I always tell you from the Malbim, Dar l'Dar Yishabach Masacha. You just see it more and more. So mitzad this, you would think people are intelligent. We're more intelligent than apes and chimpanzees and elephants, or at least we're supposed to be. So it doesn't take such brilliance to understand this. Everybody understands that guy who lifted up the right grain of sand, he had inside information. The guy who made the system told him what to do. Right? It's Pashat. I mean, it's not, nobody would doubt that. I mean, how many times could you get lucky? Even once you don't get lucky. Twice, okay, three times, 4 times. I mean, at some point you got to quit. But here you see that it's not that way. It's not that way. There's a force, there's such a force that allows you not to go there. And sometimes the more intelligent you are, the more you say the river is mine, the more it's kaychi v'yitzim yadi. To the point that this perspective is dismissed as not very intelligent. It's you were affected by some weirdness. Maybe your education, maybe your mother, maybe you hang out in the wrong communities, maybe you're not truly scientifically sound, you have an agenda, you have emotional problems, so you need something to hold on to because you have a lot of emotional issues. Indoctrination, of course, is a big thing. What's really celebrated is that you don't come to this conclusion. You remain completely, it's called objective. Objective. This is actually what's celebrated in the temples that they call universities. This is what's celebrated. Now today, last year we had the schos to see what these universities are really like. They don't know the difference between Hitler and Churchill. They don't know the difference between Hamas and Israel. They don't know the difference between raping a child and burning a child alive and saving a child. So you see what ultimately these universities are. But for generations, this has been very, very confusing. So the Rebbe says this. Don't think it's tam a fluke. The tzimtzum went wrong. You know, the roller coaster is going and it went off the tracks, and it creates a disaster in the amusement park. It can create a disaster, but this whole inyan is a chelik of the tzimtzum. What's pshat? That b'koyacha ain't soif, just like the Eidin Sof is lamata mata adein ketz. That even if you go low post tzimtzum, there'll still be a manifestation of the Eidin Sof, which is the Maimarim of the previous years. In this year, it's lamayla adein ketz. That it goes higher and higher means more concealed ad ein ketz. There's no sheer to how concealed it can be. Now that's intense. That there's no sheer, there's no size, there's no measurement of how concealed. Or in other words, in simple words, how crazy people can be. how off their rocker, how distorted reality can become in the human mind. And that's all a symptom of this is ad ein ketz. Helem, achehelem, to toyev avoyev v'chayshech. Even though if the eye had a little permission to see, in other words, the moment the eye will open up to reality, it's a game over, checkmate. It's not even a joke. It's not even a dream. The truth will be revealed. Why is this important for us to know? It's important for us to know because the Lamayla the Ketz exists inside of us too. Meaning you can have a person who has moments of clarity, and then you have other moments where there's absolute confusion, and you say, but there was so much clarity yesterday. No, but now there's a moment of Lamayla den Ketz. And this requires from the person choice and courage and trust again. Because part of the system is that the Eidin Sof could go into Helem, to the point that in the person, the Soyev Avoyev Achayshich, yesterday, you had such clarity, energetically, emotionally, intellectually, with your heart, with your soul. And today, everything is obscured. It's Choshech, Onan, Varofel, pure darkness, you see nothing. That's a moment of Lamay, of Helem Achahelem. You need to know, like, to expect that this is part of the reality of the world. It's important to know when you're traveling in the sea, there's storms. You have to know how to anchor. You have to know how to navigate. And you don't have to become shocked and overwhelmed because it was unexpected completely, and it doesn't make sense to me, and it doesn't work, and it shouldn't have happened to me, and I'm beyond this. No, I'm not. This is part of living in the world. This is part of the whole tzimtzum that's not kipshut. Mamshech, he continues, this is the meaning of the pasuk in Yeshaya, Ochein ata kel mistater. Yeshaya Hanavi, chapter 45 says, Ochein, indeed, ata, you are kel mistater. You're a kel, you're a God who hides himself. Like Yeshaya Hanavi says, you did one good job. Ochein, like, yeah. Indeed, ata kel mistater. Meaning, so the Alter Rebbe teaches of art, the Maimah says, the zeh shemistater b'dibrei halemus v'estedim ubchinas ata mamish. So here he says, the fact that you conceal yourself with so many concealments and such qualitative concealments, this is ata. This is a reflection of you mamish, achein ata. He doesn't just use the word achein kel mistater, or Hashem mistater, Elikim mistater. Should have used the word Elikim. Elikim is actually the name associated with Tzimtzum. Elikim, it says in Kabbalah, the Pardes writes, Elikim is 86, Aleph Lamed Hey Yud Mem, which is the same numerology as Hateva. And generally, Elikim is the midah of Tzimtzum, and that's why the name Elikim is the only name that, like we always say, it changes its name based on plural, singular, talking first person, second person, right? The only name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, you can't change. Shin Daled Yud, you can't change. But Elikim, there's Elikim as a noun, there's Elikai, there's Elikecha, there's Elikechem, there's Elikeinu. How does all that happen? There's Elikehem. The answer is because Elikim is the way the energy, like the way it comes down, and it's custom made and it's condensed, and that's why it can change. It's mine, it's yours, it's theirs, it's ours. But here he doesn't say that. He says, Achein ata kel mistat. So he says, because this is mamish ata. This is a reflection of ata, you. For Inyan Bazeh, to explain this, Kefishimavaya, Kvoit Kedushas Admor, Mahar Shabnish, Maseiden Barucha, Behemshich Tafrish Samachvav, Veterab, Tafrish Ayin Beis. There's two very famous Big Hemshechem series of Maimonim of the Rebbe Rashab. He's the son of the Rebbe Marash, known as Samachvav. That's 1906, and Tafrish Ayin Beis, which is 1912. The Tafrish Samachvav went for a few years, and Tafrish Ayin Beis went for a few years. They're a very big series in Chabad Chassidus. So over there he explains, the Rebbe Rashab explains, well, Kama Mekaymis in other places, Shekeshem, Shekayach HaBli Gvul Nimshach M'chinas Bli Gvul HaMiti, Kach Gam Kayach HaMagbil, V'gam Kayach HaGvul Shalamatim Mimenu Nimshachim M'chinas Bli Gvul HaMiti Dafka. Just as everybody understands that the infinite power comes from the source that's infinite, from the true source that's infinity. So the power that limits the infinity, and even the Kayach HaGvul itself, there's Kayach HaMagbil and Kayach HaGvul. Kayach HaMagbil is the power that limits the infinite light, and the finite power itself, which is lower than that, it's the product of the Kayach HaMagbil. Kayach HaMagbil is that which limits the light, and Kayach HaGvul is the light that becomes limited. So it's lower, limatim menu. They all come from Bli Gvul HaMiti Dafka. They come from the same source of true infinity. Just like infinite expression comes from infinity, the power to limit infinite expression and the finiteness itself all comes from the same Bli Gvul HaMiti. V'raya l'davar, and a proof to this in our own experience, because we're trying to explain this from our own experience. Sharei Yodua, we know, shekol oir v'gilui I efshir sheyitzamtzem v'yagbel asatzmai. Fascinating. Every light and revelation cannot limit itself, because if this is the nature that this reveals this light, so it's part of the package. In order to limit it and to restrain it, you have to go back to the place from where the light comes. Once the light is transmitted, this is it. This is who I am. This is my identity. In order to limit it, to filter it, to suppress it, to conceal it, you have to go back to the place from where it came. That's the place where you limit it. Furthermore, On the contrary, mitzad zeh behechrich loymar she'in de mistater koyach hagvul magia be'ata l'mayla yosem me'in de kel inyan agili. Not only that, the power to limit must come from a deeper place than the power to reveal, because it's controlling the power to reveal. It's superimposing itself on the power to reveal. It's stopping the revelation. So even though naturally there's a revelation, it comes and it, so to speak, says, no, there's not going to be a gilui. So he says it's adarabba. The inyan of mistater, the koyach hagvul, comes from a deeper place in Atam more than Kael, which Kael is inyan hagilui. It says in Tehillim, it says chesed Kael kol hayom. Kael represents grace and generosity of spirit and revelation, and the Ata is higher than Kael. The Ata is you. So what is he saying here? When light and Gilui are being manifested, they're being transmitted. Why are they being transmitted? Because they're revealing whatever they're revealing. So that's the nature of the reality. The nature of reality is that it emits light. However, it emits its light based on its own nature. To be able to stop that, to be able to mitzamtzim that, it can't come from the place of the Oid and the Gilui itself, because that's being revealed. It needs to come from the same source from where the light is coming from. It's from that source that you could stop that light and stop the limitation and choose not to express itself this way, to express yourself through not expressing yourself, through obstruct the light or through limiting the light or stopping completely the light or obscuring the light. The koyach of the power of back to the teacher, the power of the teacher to limit his words can't come from the information itself. It must come from the place from where the information is coming. Because from the information itself, there's a flow of information. When I'm working on my computer, I'm not a programmer. There's some programmers here, so I'm going to give a metaphor about something I completely don't know. I know we have some very distinguished back-end experts here. What I know is that I'm already working post-program. I didn't write the program. So if I'm working on Microsoft, whatever program I'm working on my computer, it's already a product of the program. So I cannot change the mechanisms, the components. Only the one who wrote the program and created that type of system, he can go back and say, you know what? The system is finished. We're changing the system. We're tweaking it. We're altering it. We're obliterating it. We're transforming it, whatever. We're completely closing it up. If you're not connected to that space, you're already part of the issue. You're part of the product. So the koyach to be mitzamtzem, it's not such a bad mashal actually. The koyach to be mitzamtzem the oir, or to change the oir, can't come from the oir v'gili itself. This is who you are. We have to go back to the source. And over there, where it was chosen to be revealed that way, it's going to be different. That's why, when it comes to communication and education, it's the person who masters, I said this once in a shir, the person who masters the material in a much deeper way, who could be mitzamtzem the material. Right? If I'm just repeating what I heard from others, I'm just repeating what I heard. It's only when you really own the material that you could say, you know what, this shouldn't be revealed. And we also know when a person is expressing themselves, right, the power not to express yourself, it comes from a very, very deep place. The power to be silent. You really have to own yourself. If you're just a victim of your own expressions, then it's just, it flows. The ability to be able to go to a deeper place and choose this path, choose silence over words, that's a very deep strength. Syag lechachma shtika. Not only that, he says something even more than that. The power to limit the light must come from a place that's deeper than the power to express the light, because it's overpowering the nature to express. It's stopping it. So therefore it has to come even from a deeper place in the self than from where the light is coming. Because there's a self that wants to express the light. Like in physics, everything emits light. Just the nature of it. That's how it exists. You know, ask the sun not to emit light. Thank you. What do you want me to do? Cease to be. And the truth is, every physical item, every physical object emits light. It's just the wavelengths are such that our eyes don't pick it up. The wavelength of the sun is a light that we could pick up. That's why so many things, they emit light. We don't access it that way. Fine. But everything, that's its nature. Now you're coming to stop that, to obstruct that. So that has to come from a place that's, so to speak, deeper in the self than its nature that expresses the light, because it overpowers that and it stops it. So this is what he's saying here. That just like the expression of Ein Sof comes from Ein Sof, bli gvul ha'amiti, so the koyach to be magbel that, to limit that, is also from the Ein Sof. And not only the koyach to limit that, but also the koyach ha'gvul, the way it comes out in not only the power to limit the oil, but the way it comes out in koyach ha'gvul itself, the product of that is also from the Ein Sof. In other words, it's from Ata, it's from you, which is beyond the place of Oyer and Gili. And not only that, it's even deeper than Kael, because Kael is the energy that's expressed in Oyer, and this is the energy that needs to be magbel and mitzamtzum the Oyer, so it's more powerful than that. And that's the union of Ata, Achin Ata Kel Mistat. Or maybe the Gemayos Mashalom. He brings many metaphors. The way this is expressed beyond, lower than the tzimtzum. Ba'olam in the worlds, bekelim debri yitzirasi, olamayla yosef bekelim datzilas, v'gam lifnei atzimtzum, and even higher than tzimtzum, ad lebchinas ha'atzmos, all the way to atzmos, the essence of Hashem, sheshamu inyan ha'yecholos. Over there it's called yecholos. Yecholos means capability. Yecholos lahayir, v'yecholos shaloi lahayir, k'fri she'en b'shava. In atzmos, he has the capacity to express, and the capacity not to express, and they're both identical. It's all yecholos, it's all capacity. In other words, Atzmos has a capacity lahayir to express itself, meaning to generate light. What does it mean to generate light? To transmit itself, to allow itself to be experienced, perceived, communicated. And it also has the capacity shaloi lahayir, not to show up, not to express, not to be manifested, not to radiate, not to shine out light. The ability for non-expression, the ability just to be. And that's the union of Ata and Kael. Ached, Ata and Kael. Kael is Oir, Chesed, Kael, Kol HaYom, it says in Tehillim. And Ata is you. You, the way you are. So that's the Yecholos, over there it's Yecholos. So in every level of reality, there is the Koyach HaBli Gvul, and there's the Koyach HaGvul. And just like the Koyach HaBli Gvul comes from Bli Gvul, the Koyach HaGvul, the Koyach to be Magbel, it also comes from there. All the way back to the source in Atzmos, where it's called Yecholos. What's Yecholos? Yecholos means there is the infinite capability to be able to be Meir, and the infinite capability to be Shaloi Lahayir. And it's B'Shav, it's mamish the same thing. And from this come out the two streams, the way we describe them as two streams. We describe them as two streams, because in Atzmos it's one. He says it's B'Shav, it's identical. What are the two streams? Both are the Koyach of Ein Sof. This is why we say this is the same Ein Sof that gets revealed to no end and gets concealed to no end. The same Ein Sof, it's not two Ein Sofs. It's both B'Koyach Ein Sof. But the Lamata, the Intachlis, comes from the Koyach, from the capacity to express, to radiate, to shine, to manifest, to communicate, to transmit. That's what Oir is. And the Lamayla Din Ketz comes from the Yecholos and Atzmos, the ability, the capacity not to be Meir. So how is that expressed? It's expressed in Tzimtzum, it's expressed in Helam, and it's expressed in Helam deeper, deeper, deper, Ilui Achar Ilui, to the point where there's no revelation whatsoever. It's all the Yecholos, Shaloi Lahayir. Shazau HaKoyach, this is the capacity, L'tzamtzam, to restrict or condense, or Lahalam, and to conceal. Behelim, Achar Helim, concealment after concealment, deeper and deeper, and the higher and deeper the concealment, the more it's the Yecholos, Shaloi Lahayir. Shazal Mashakasu, this is what it means. Achin ata kel mistater. You are a kel mistater. It's nothing outside of you. It's all your yecholos shaloi lahayir. It's you. It's only ata. Va'acha mistater bekama kisuyin ubekama klippin. Keteres HaBaal Shem Tov, until the Or could be concealed with many blockages and many klip and many shells and husks, as the Baal Shem Tov teaches. Ukefi Shenimshach B'Avodas HaAdam. And what are the ramifications, how it applies to a person's avodah, which is always the main thing. You were in a world and you feel a complete abandonment wound. The river is mine. I made myself. That original abandonment wound, the cosmic abandonment wound, what is that in avodah? In avodah, it's that sense of loneliness to the point that you have to become an atheist. And here we're learning, as I said yesterday, what real atheism is. We usually look at atheism as a Rasha Merusha, a Shaita, a Rasha, a Gasruach, Koichi Vaitzim Yadi, a Shaigitz, a Behema, Egevi a Behema. Behema knows what the Navi says, right? Yeshaya Navi says, Yada Shur Koineu v'chamor Evus Ba'alav. An ox knows its owner, and even a donkey knows the trough of its master. But Ami lo yada v'lo yizbainon. My people don't know anything. That's what Yeshaya Navi says. An ox and a donkey, I'm saying, Se'egevi abehema. So that's how we look at it. But here he's going to the emotional part of it. How much terror do you have to experience in order to be able to think that you're on your own in the world? Like I said yesterday, how much pain is it for the 1 week old baby, or the 1 month old baby, or the 6 month old baby, or the 1 year old baby that has to decide not only doesn't have a mother, that I am my own mother? That's a painful reality. What does that do to the nervous system and to the brain of that child, who after 6 months feels so abandoned and so neglected that he has to decide that I am my own. Not only that, I don't know where my mother is and I'm crying for my mother. Not Mela. That's where you're searching. But I am my own mother. I am literally my own mother. That's the most tragic phenomenon in life, is that you need power. That you need to build your ego into something. That there's something we need to take away from Hashem. How much abandonment allows for that reality. That I have to, because there's nothing that belongs. There's nothing outside of that one reality. Nothing. It's completely, that's the greatest tragedy. I'm so disconnected that I have to steal all reality from its source and build a house of cards that never existed and is therefore going to break down sooner than later. Just to be able to justify the pain of the abandonment wound and create coping mechanisms instead of understanding its reality.
Justify the abandonment or to justify its existence?
The abandonment is so painful. And instead of acknowledging that, right, I can't acknowledge that because it's too painful. So what I do is I create a philosophy that the abandonment is actually the way it's supposed to look. Who said there's a mother? There's no mother. I am my mother. Even though I deny anything, even though it creates coping mechanisms that are absolutely chaotic. From narcissistic personality disorder to borderline personality disorder to complete personality disorder, and I'm talking about dramatic stuff, but then there's the daily stuff, all of the coping mechanisms where there's no trust, there's no surrender, there's no vulnerability, there's no love, there's no openness. How could there be?
We suffer from an abandonment that we deny never existed.
Yeah. The moment you acknowledge the cosmic abandonment wound, it's the beginning of the healing. That's Tzimtzum. Tzimtzum is the acknowledgement of the cosmic abandonment wound that plays itself out in every person's life. And that we heal by learning what the tzimtzum is. That you were never ever abandoned, ever. Not even for a split second. Even though you felt it, because there's a tzimtzum. Tzimtzum means you felt what you felt and you're not crazy. Right? That's what's so important. We keep on saying that. We don't say tzimtzum shaleik b'shudis, so there was no tzimtzum. You'll never see that in Chassidus. Just say there was no tzimtzum, it's a joke. That Rizal was just having, he was just joking by breakfast. He was making jokes. And then they wrote it down, they took it seriously. That's not what tzimtzum shaleik means. That Rizal was joking during breakfast. That Rizal wasn't joking. Not during breakfast, not during lunch. And not even during dinner. It means what you're feeling is real. It's the pain. Shaleik b'shudis means, but what's the real depth of what it is? What's really behind it? That's what Loike Pshuta means. Loike Pshuta doesn't mean it's fiction. Loike Pshuta means there's something on face value, and then there's the true message and purpose and goal of it. So in Avodah, he says, this koichi v'oitzim yadi, this is his Avodah example of l'mayla adin ketz. What does toyu v'voyu v'choshech look like? Loneliness, brokenness. Now you say, what's the big deal? Everybody is lonely, everybody is broken. But that's the core. That's the core of Helam. That's the core of concealment. It comes out in so many different ways, but the core is, God doesn't love me. He's out to get me. Even if there is a God, he's out to get me. That relationship of closeness, of intimacy, of oneness. You know, when the Baal Shem Tov's father told him, don't be afraid of anything in the world outside of Hashem. That visceral experience of absolute trust, of absolute vulnerability. David HaMelech says in Tehillim, Im loi shivisi v'daimamti nafshi kegamul alei imoi. Yeah. Heaven can testify how I know how to be completely silent and surrendered. I'm like a little child. Gumul is a suckling child that nurses. Alei imai, cuddled up in the bosom of its mother. And this is David HaMelech, the great warrior and fighter and general and commander and king and the head of Sanhedrin and David Melech Yisrael. David was no spineless pushover, let's put it that way. But there was that space where he's a 1-week-old baby, alei imai. You know, whenever you see that moment, the mother cuddling her child who's 1 week old, 2 weeks old, 6 months old, and they just look at each other. The child doesn't have to understand, but there's just this trust, the frequency of trust. He knows that he's loved, unconditionally loved. And we know when children don't have that safety and attachment, the chaos it creates in the brain. You know, the question is how long it happened for and has it been restored? Whatever. I'm just giving an example. Right? So David HaMelech energetically felt like that his whole life. What's koichi v'oitzim yadi? Koichi v'oitzim yadi means I have to go away from that. I need to take credit. How tragic is that? And then there's worse. The river is mine. What does it make? How much abandonment and terror does Parai have to feel to become Parai? We're learning here what real evil is. Real evil is the ultimate tragedy of the tzimtzum gone wild. The tzimtzum gone haywire. In Avodah, this is the Helam HaChehelim, to the point that I say, Koichi v'otzim yadi. And it makes it so real, because whenever there's something I need to own, I need to take from myself, rather than give it to Hashem, that's Avodah Zarah. That's tzimtzum gone crazy. And it's even in subtle stuff. We're not here talking only about Parah and Nebuchadnezzar and Haman and all the Amaleks of history. Obviously, they're too a big part of the equation. But we're talking about even inside of us, you know.
Unfair.
Huh?
Unfair.
What?
His concealment is okay, so continue looking. But my concealment, that's not good. Some unfairness here, but it's obviously just a joke. But it's very interesting.
Yeah, listen.
So, who's it credited?
I don't know if we start viewing the world as being in the paradigm of fair and unfair, we'll probably get stuck pretty fast. Like, what's fair, what's unfair?
Can you take credit for something?
Yeah.
Not yours?
Can you take credit for anything that's not yours?
Yeah.
And that's even, one inhale of oxygen. And everything else from there, everything else. Literally everything else. Yeah, it's all plagiarism. And it's painful plagiarism, because there's a reason I'm doing it. I'm not just plagiarizing. There's reasons people plagiarize. They need to build themselves. They need to win the Nobel Prize. They need to have a best-selling book. They need to be a celebrity. They need money. They need validation. They need people to say that they're the genius of the century. They need tenure in university. Whatever it is, they need to be the biggest Gadol Rosh Hashiva. Everybody in their own field of what it means to be a success story.
Also, we live in reality. If you basically say, wow, and everything, Hashem is genius. I understand that genius is because he's a genius. And you will be so lonely with that acknowledging of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in everything. You can be basically a lonely, crazy person in
or a free, uninhibited, present, joyous, vulnerable, spontaneous spirit.
If
That's what I would say.
if others have consciousness to allow it, then yes.
Everybody here has the consciousness. If they've been sitting here and they stick it out with me, so they all have the consciousness. It's the only form of spontaneity. It's the only form where we don't protect ourselves. Where we're not afraid of vulnerability, where we could be spontaneous, we could be free, we could be uninhibited. Without cheshbonos, without self-consciousness. I'm not controlling, I'm not manipulating, I'm not exploiting. I could just be present right here, right now. I don't have to control the next minute. I don't have to impress anybody ever. It's called living.
That's why even Ariya Kodesh didn't succeed, because he needed to have 10 people on the same level of consciousness.
But look, take the Arizal, right? You know, people talk about changing the world. Arizal sat with a few people. There was no WhatsApp group for the Arizal, you know, with 900,000 members. Elon Musk's messages and Trump's messages, you know, going out on Twitter. Lahavdil, of course. You're talking about mamish, a small chabura. Even Rabbi, the Baal Shem Tov. But they were doing something. It was emistic. It was authentic. It was all inside. It was a small. But it created an energy and a consciousness that changed the world. You still was sitting here hundreds of years later talking about the Arizal's doctrine of Tzimtzum, talking about the Baal Shem Tov, what the Baal Shem Tov explained about Tzimtzum, what the Maggid, the Alter Rebbe, etc. Because it was truth, because they were plugging into the real energy. It's not a game.
I mean, it changed the people that follow the teachings, but most of the people in the world are as ignorant as 200 years ago.
We're getting there. All the developments in science is the scientific side of all the developments in Torah Tzimtzum. Because the Torah is the blueprint of the universe. So what happens in the blueprint, the changes in the blueprint are right away affected in the entire structure. And in our awareness of the structure is the same, but our awareness of the cosmos is based on the blueprint. As the blueprint expands, which is Pnimiyus HaTorah, so the entire structure's appreciation expands. There's not a nekuda in science that's revealed that's not another expression of a nekuda in Pnimiyus HaTorah that's revealed. And you see it, mamish almost matches. It's like even with the generations, it matches.
Especially today, with all the information highways.
Yeah.
We could relate to the
Exactly.
spheres before, couldn't relate to the spheres.
Yeah,
Now
exactly.
it's a direct analogy.
Exactly.
Time goes on, we stop realizing that Simpson wasn't really a Simpson.
Of course, that's the whole idea. The whole inyan of Geula is the Aleph in the Geula, like we spoke in the previous class. It's that the whole Tzimtzum was just Achdus. That's all it was. It's cracking the code, not by denying its reality. Again, we're not suppressing and denying and amputating. It's saying everything was just dandy and perfect and, you know, was delicious lollipop and cotton candy, which is anyway unhealthy. Huh? Cotton candy is unhealthy and lollipops are mostly unhealthy unless you get a good organic one without sugar. But you won't like it. Right? It's not denying the experience of reality. It's redefining the experience of reality. It's seeing the pnimius of it. That's what pnimius HaTorah means, seeing the pnimius of it. So b'meila, when we talk about this, Koichi V'otzim Yadi, he says this is the avodah, this is the way it expresses an avodah sa'adam. It's really, literally a form of abandonment. It's literally, this is the abandonment. And whenever we do this, even talk about emotions. Yeah. If I'm becoming angry at somebody, it's a very, very common emotion. It's a response. Yeah. If I'm expressing arrogance, another common emotion. If I'm becoming addicted to a substance, or at least very entrenched and enthralled by a substance, even if I'm not calling it an addiction because I'm too embarrassed to call it an addiction. Or whatever it is, any emotion, you have to ask yourself one question, like it says in Tanya. Is this avodah zarah or it's not avodah zarah? The moment it's giving power to anything and anybody outside of Einoid Mulvadai, it's a form of avodah zarah. I know it's not avodah zarah that you're worshiping a statue and bowing down to it. but it's subtle, but it's very real. And it's very powerful, because when I'm getting angry, yeah, it's a coping mechanism of surviving. You're an idiot. You're a sick man. You're a sick woman. Whatever it is, right? It's some way of feeling that I'm good, that I'm safe. What's really behind it? What's really behind it is I'm terrified. I'm alone. I'm broken. And this is the coping mechanism. What am I doing? I'm stealing something from Hashem. What am I? I'm stealing myself. This is what avodah zarah means. I'm giving power to a reality outside of Hashem, and I know why. Because I feel alone. I gotta. You know, who's paying my mortgage? You. Who's taking care of me? You. I gotta take care of myself. That's what Paro said. There's a big economy in Egypt. This river is mine. Somebody got to run. Somebody got to run this place, right?
All this angers, all the emotions and stuff like that. That's a beautiful mechanism that we have. The Lord wants us to be angry at certain things.
If you're right, Oyave Hashem sinura. Yeah, that you're right. When you're in love with God, you detest evil. But that's not an ego thing. That sinura is part of Achdus Hashem. It brings you closer to oneness. It remains humble. It's very not a personal thing of vendetta. Because you know, yeah, you didn't give me shishi, right? Or whatever shishi looks like, you know? Supper wasn't ready, breakfast wasn't ready, lunch wasn't ready, things didn't go my way. Every nikud of selfishness and narcissism, it's an inyan of avodah zarah. What do I mean by avodah zarah? It's basically, I'm desperate to give existence to something outside of Hashem. Now you're saying, come on, Rabbi Wai, this is what life is. Who's going to take care of me? Yeah, of course. And that's exactly the tragedy of Koichi Vaitzim Yadi. That's exactly the tragedy. That's why we are miserable. That's why we are anxious. But why am I having anxiety? Because we're building a house of cards that doesn't exist and trying to invest it with happiness. It's like taking something from wax and trying to believe that it's alive and putting a soul into it and investing billions of dollars into maintaining it, and it's still dead. So yeah, it's anxious. It's a lot of anxiety. That's what anxiety is: living a split life. The truth knows the truth. You can't forge truth. Nobody ever in history denied reality. You can't deny reality. You can bury it for a while in your own imagination. Even then you don't bury it. Emes me'eretz titzmach. You can't deny reality. Duality is a lie. And every lie creates anxiety because your system that has truth, it's a compliment. Anxiety is a compliment. Anxiety means that there's an alarm clock in you saying, wake up. Wake up. That's all it's saying. Anxiety is like something is not working, of course. You created a new reality and you decided it exists and you invested your whole life in it. And it's not true. It's simply not true. And this is as real as it gets. And as much as I say it, it's much more real than that. But we're running away from it. We're running away from it because the alternative is very, very vulnerable. And because sometimes God has been fed to us in very toxic ways. So you want to run away from it. Sometimes Koichi Vaitzim Yadi seems like a much better alternative than the faith that has been fed to some of us, which is very negative. Like, I don't want to go there. If this is what it's like, we're not toifas. This is where the tzimtzum needs healing. Part of the big tzimtzum is the Maimon is talking about Koichi Vaitzim Yadi. I want to add something else, which is an extension of that. That is when the God that has been fed to us is traumatizing. So yeah, if being a baby in my mother's arms means that I'm in the presence of someone who hates me 24/7, and instead of giving me milk is giving me poison, it's much better to be your own mother. I get it. Much better to be your own mother. At least you're not You're not in the presence of somebody who's feeding you poison 24/7. At least you're on your own. At least you're not giving yourself poison. Fine, there's nothing there. I'm on my own, but at least I'm not in the presence of such chaos. This is all koichi v'otzim yadi. It's the tragedy of abandonment. So in a way, he's removing all the judgment from it. Like, how much terror in my psyche to be able to have to start taking everything for myself. We talk about emunah, bitachon. This is all trying to transform how we talk about emunah, bitachon. We use the words emunah, bitachon, and some people already I heard enough of these things. It's bypassing. It's not realistic. It's all this. It's for the bubbas after. I have anxiety. Take me to a therapist. Stop with emunah and bitachon. But the truth is, these are everything that needs healing, because it's all filtered through the tzimtzum. That's why it's helpful to use different words, because it bypasses the resistance of the system. The value of using the word tzimtzum is that it's a word that hasn't been contaminated by the Orthodox system. Because unless you learned a lot of Kabbalah and Chassidus, you don't use the word. It sounds like a Chinese dish. So nobody's traumatized by the word tzimtzum. Tzimtzum, you want tzimtzum? Well done, raw, a little done. How do you want your tzimtzum? We have a discount today on the tzimtzum. It's only $29.99. It's usually $79.99. It bypasses the regular Orthodox resistance symptoms. You know what I mean? Once you talk emunah, bitachon, davening, shut down completely. I know it's true. I know, I'm a teacher. I know I speak to people. But I don't want to ruin it. I'm not going to ruin it. So you could consider thinking it's a Chinese dish.
We ruined it many times when we mentioned that word to others.
But really, that word captures the whole inyan. The whole inyan. Pre-tzimtzum, you're taka ein soif. You're inside the ein soif. It's not you're inside the ein soif. Not just a child being cuddled. It's a child inside the ein soif. It's more than being cuddled. And now I'm dropped. So it's like a baby dropped off a cliff. Figure it out. First of all, could you see how painful that is? That's the pain of creation. That's the pain of tzimtzum. And to deny that pain is not to live in reality. The more sensitive you are, the more you feel that original drop, because you feel your neshama. The more sensitive people feel more abandoned, not less. And then, once you acknowledge the pain, you don't look for substitutes. Let me deny that there was a mountain. Let me deny that there's a mother. Let me deny there's a father. Let me deny there's a source. Let me deny that I'm infinite. Let me deny it and create coping mechanisms. So this one is drinking, this one is eating, this one is binging, and everybody with their own escape mechanisms. This one is busy angry, this one is anxious, this one is lazy, this one is sluggish, this one is depressed, this one is bechal drunk and stoned. This one is busy making money, this one is busy afraid of making money, this guy is a success story, this guy is afraid to be a success story, but everybody is an abandonment. I deal with it. One guy become the biggest success in history, and the other guy is by locking himself up in his bedroom for life. But it's the same thing. They're both terrified. This is why guy needs the popularity of the whole world, koichi v'otzim yadi, and this guy is afraid to show up to the bar mitzvah because of social anxiety. Well, you're having a good time. This is pretty serious.
It's so true.
Huh? Yeah, and they're both literally the same abandonment. And I don't know who's more abandoned, the guy who's world famous or the guy who's locked up in his room and won't even show up for his nephew's bar mitzvah because of social anxiety. Yeah. Sometimes you don't know who's... Yeah.
And sometimes the one who's locked up has more opportunities.
Yeah, at least he's locked up. He didn't replace it with so much... he doesn't have to undo so many things. He's just stuck. But... Huh? Oh, b'shava mamish, yeah.
But the work that we have to do is basically catch up all those thoughts that cause anxiety or whatever it is, and literally undo them.
Yeah.
Literally undo them. It's the most difficult thing because we're preoccupied with our
That's true.
thoughts all the time.
And it's the thoughts that feed it. It's thoughts. It's not, the person is not crazy. It's literally thoughts that we have, everyone in their own way. Then you have a person who doesn't even understand what I'm talking about. In other words, their coping mechanisms are so efficient, they're like, this is a waste of time talking about this. But it doesn't mean they're not suffering from it. It just means they have been more successful in living what looks like a functional life, completely unaware of this.
In fact, they have opposite, because they probably have so much validation, and
Yeah.
so they don't even
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, like he said yesterday, when somebody's really successful in life, in many ways it's much more dangerous because it's harder to get out of it. Ignorance is bliss. Bliss. Yosef das, Yosef machav, it says. The more das, the more pain. And also, right, sometimes we need to be thankful. Sometimes. Not sometimes, always, but we could feel it sometimes. For certain curveballs that happen in our lives that opened us up to the cosmic abandonment wound. And you could really, when you experience that, you could start crying with gratitude to those curveballs that literally, yes, they pulled the rug out of under my feet. They busted, they poked a hole in the balloon. They ruptured the facade. How lucky. How lucky to be able to face so much deeper levels of truth. And I know it's painful, but how lucky, fortunate to be able to address the real wound and not the fake wound, which is that my wife didn't give me enough attention yesterday when I came home.
Rabbi, with success and misery, we can look at them as the same spectrum of dysfunction, let's say, right? But the problem is that we also have, besides the show, we have a mission in life. So
That's
when
true.
a person is successful,
That's true.
At least he accomplished something.
That's true.
At least one part is
That's true.
is okay.
That's true. That's true, and that's why throughout the whole process, we need to understand, right, that when you do a mitzvah, and when you learn Torah, and when you do a good deed, that has timeless, absolute value. And even if my motivations are rotten, it will all be repaired, it will all be healed retroactively. Because the moment you'll have clarity, retroactively everything will be filled with light. All the coping mechanisms will also be liberated. Because you'll learn that it was all your tzimtzum that you were operating with. And you're going to learn that it was shalai kipshutai. So retroactively it fills up everything.
So it's designed for you.
Of course, it's all designed for you. So achein ata kel mistater. The nekuda is that in atzmos, you have the yechilas lahayr and the yechilas shalai lahayr. You have the capacity to express and the capacity not to express. Gilui on every level comes from the yechilas lahayr. Helem on every level comes from the yechilas shalai lahayr. The two are exactly the same. It's both atzmos. Hashem doesn't have two parts. One part has light, one part has darkness. It's one nikud, it's called yechilas. It's not even a tangible reality because there's no definition. It's all, we call it capability, yechilas from the word yachal. Yachal, koil yachal. Yachal means yachal. He could this, he could not. The fact that I could speak and I could not speak, that's one point, it's not two. We create the duality. Here you spoke, here you didn't speak. But in your essence, it's one. It is. And atzmos is not defined, not by the need to express and not by the need to not express. It's both one. And that's the truth. And over there, everything is one. It's a level of coherence. It's a state of coherence where every nekuda is completely one. It's all achdas hapshuta. For the kavan of the Rebbe Tachtoinim, which is the embodiment of the Ein Sof in our bodies, in our nervous system, in our psyches, and in our world, where there is consciousness and there is definition, the yechilas, which is one, is expressed in our experience in a duality. But the truth is that duality is only to be able to create the full unity between every human being and every soul and the atzmos. So we speak about duality simply to integrate it, like the teacher that goes through the tzimtzum in order to build the capacity of the student. So here it comes out in what we call two streams. We're calling it two streams because it's not two streams. It's Yechilas. It's one. It's B'Shava Mamash. And you see it in the person. Your ability to express, your ability not to express is one. The people are going to experience it in two ways. Here you expressed yourself. Here you didn't express yourself.
Doesn't change your essence.
You need to know when to speak and when
You need to know like it says in Kahela. There's a time to speak. There's a time to be quiet. There's a time to hug. There's a time not to hug. There's a time to be close. There's a time to be distant.
So is it emotional intelligence or it's intelligence bichlal?
It both. There's the IQ and there's the EQ of when to be in each person, when to say, when not to say, what to express, what not to express. And we all know that the ability not to express sometimes takes much more maturity and greatness than the ability to express. When you see something and you want to talk and you say no, that can't come from the place from where the words are. It has to come from the source of the words. Right? A classic example would be you're watching your child do something or say something. It's painful. You want to explode. You want to say something. It's your job. You're a father. If you're in the experience itself, you can't hold back. You always have to pause, go back to the core, and then you make a decision. That's what he means here. The koyach hamagbil must come from the source from where the light came. If you're stuck in expression, you're not going to be able to hold back. You have to go back. We see this emotionally. Pause, go back. Right? Viktor Frankl said between stimuli and reaction, there's a millisecond. That's where all human freedom lives. If you can't catch that millisecond, stimuli, you said something, boom, punch in the nose, scream, curse, you're done. You're stuck in the experience. Pause, go back, be curious. Wow, what's going on? What's this energy shooting out of me? Maybe we should choose a different expression. Maybe I should be quiet. Maybe I should smile. Maybe I should give a hug. Maybe it's time for me to go to my room. You'll figure it out. But how should you figure it out? You got to go back to your own source. Over there, you have the ability to express. You also have the ability to be quiet, and you're not afraid to be quiet. You won't melt. Sometimes, if I don't say anything, what's going to happen? Relax. Huh? What? Yeah, this is the ultimate father and mother. So this is where you go back, and you're curious, you feel your experience, and then you make a decision. Should I hold back, or maybe I shouldn't? I should express. Maybe I should express it differently. Maybe I have to express it with a tzimtzum. Maybe you have to say it differently. Maybe you have to say 1% of what you wanted to say. Maybe you don't have to say anything. Maybe you just have to take out the sushi and smile. Maybe you just have to say, I love you. Not only that, the koyach to not express itself always comes from a deeper place, because it has to be more powerful than the need to express. Because to hold back, right? If you're fighting with somebody, I need to hold you back. I got to be stronger than you, because you're repelling me, you're fighting me, you're resisting me, physically and mentally. If you're pushing towards something and I want to hold you back, I need to be more powerful, not less powerful. So the Rebbe says the koyach to be magbil has to be more powerful than the koyach not to be magbil.
In the case of war, you need to kill them right away. You don't need to wait.
You're right. You're right. Habala harga chashkem laharga. That's where you got to go out. If you hesitate, you're dead. You're right. When the enemy is here to destroy, don't hesitate. Shaul hesitated and a disaster was created. You can't hesitate. But you have to know what is what. You know, you have to know if this is a war zone or if it's a peace zone. So the koyach to be magabil, my ability to hold you back, I need to be stronger than you because you're fighting the other way. It's a tug of war, literally, like, the arm wrestle. Right? You're trying to go down. If I want to get you the other direction, if I'm as powerful as you, it's going to stay stuck. So the Rebbe says the koyach to be magbil in a way is deeper than the koyach habligvul. V'haraya, it's magbilit. Now again, this is from our experience. We're giving a mashal here. But he wants to bring out, don't look at the koyach magbil as there's no fluke, there's no mistake here. It's ato kel mistate. The same kale that creates gilui, it's the ata that creates helim. And in a way, the ata is expressed more in the helim than in the gilui. Because the gilui is the koyach habligvul, and the ata is the only thing that can be magbil, can limit the koyach hagilui, which means it's more powerful than that. It's deeper than that. It's more ata. You see it also emotionally. Sometimes to be quiet takes much more energy, maturity, greatness, vision, wisdom than to say. Right? To hold back and go internal and nobody sees anything because you're holding it back takes much more maturity, much more energy, much more strength. Like you're being quiet already for an hour and a half.
Or like me, who has enough ruach to say that.
Yeah. It's it's like the Jew, the Jew who sold a parrot that speaks for $50,000. So the next week at the marketplace, guy sells a parrot for $60,000. So guy buys it. He comes home and the parrot is garnished. Comes back. He says, "You're a ganav." He says, "Why am I a ganav?" He says, "Last week the guy $50,000 for a parrot that speaks. You sell $60,000." He says, "Yeah, my parrot schweigt. My parrot is better. He's quiet. He doesn't say a word. I'm a chaya. That's much harder. $60,000 to schweigen." I just ruined the joke, but whatever. Okay, that's fine. You get the point. Schweigt. Sticke, silence is. So let's understand. So the Yichaylis L'hoy V'Shlei Chesha is one. Well, the way it comes out, here it's Lamata Adein Tachlis, this is Gilui, and here it's Helim. So what is the Tzimtzum? What is really the Tzimtzum? The Tzimtzum is really the Yichaylis Shaloi L'hoyer. It's the ability not to express. That's what Tzimtzum is. Now we understand why this is called Lamai Lamai Adein Ketz. Why is concealment going higher and revelation going lower? I would say it's the other way around. Revelation is going higher and concealment is going lower and lower. You're going down, 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 down till nobody sees you. Here it's the opposite. The answer is, now we understand. Because if Tzimtzum is really the Yichaylas Shaloi L'Hoyer, so Tzimtzum is going back to the Ata. It's going back to the source. So the more Helim there is, the more it's being Niskalol Batzmusi. You're going back to the Etzem, which is not defined by Oyer. Everything emits light, right? But Atzmus doesn't have to emit light. If he wants, he chooses to emit light. It's not like the sun. If he doesn't want, he chooses not to emit light. So not to express light is really the Oyer going back to the Atzmus. It's going back to the essence. Yeah. We spoke a few shiurim ago about Barichas, you remember? I gave a mashal, I forgot the mashal I gave. How Oyer, you remember the mashal I gave? That Oyer really is an expression. But to hold back the Oyer, right, the Helim of Oyer, that means the Oyer goes back to the Atzmos. So it's really the Oyer going higher, not the Oyer going lower. And here is a big chiddush in Chassidus, one of the big chiddushim of the Alter Rebbe. We always touch Tzimtzum as a compromise. The Oyer is being concealed, it's being suspended. Comes this Maimon and says, that's only a superficial perspective. The real thing that happens to Tzimtzum is the Oyer goes higher. The Oyer goes nichlal, it's nichlal batzmusay. It goes back to the Yichaylas Shaloi L'Hoyer. It goes back to Ata, and Ata is not defined by light. In practical terms, so people can understand what this means, is the greatest leaders, again to quote Rabbi Sachs, he said, great teachers create powerful students, and great leaders create powerful followers. But the greatest of leaders create leaders. What does it mean to create a leader? To create a leader means you create somebody that's not dependent on you. He's not a follower anymore. L'chaira, a great leader creates a follower. No. The greatest of leaders creates other leaders. Why? Because the great leader creates somebody who's like him. What does it mean he's like him? He's a replica. What does it mean he's a replica? That just like you're a leader, I'm also a leader. That's the greatest form. What do they say? Imitation is the greatest flattery. The greatest form of leadership is that you don't need him anymore. What does it mean you don't need him? Because you need him because you are him. You're not being makabel anymore. You're a mashpia. Right? What's the greatest compliment for a parent? That your child remains home and calls you tati and mommy forever? No, that they leave, that they become independent. They become their own tati and mommy because now they're not just following you, they are you. You understand? They become you, they embody you. That's much deeper. The real Talmud is not a Talmud. The real Talmud is the Rav. So he could create other Talmudim. That's the real Hiskashrus, because he embodies the Rav. He's not anymore feeding off the Rav as a recipient. That's the true Rav. The Rav who gave him wings and said, fly away. Trust your instincts. Trust yourself. Become your own human being. There, you're not only receiving from the Rav, you are the Rav. It's a much deeper Achdus. How is the Achdus represented? It looks like they're separate. But that separateness is really the greatest unity. Because I trusted you so much, I sent you away. Leave, gone, bye, have a good day. Take initiative, be bold. Your teifus, it's a very important idea. Some people don't want that. They want stay close. And then it looks like you're a student, but it's really much more limited form of a student because you're just receiving. You could say over what you heard. You never really found yourself. In other words, the Rav never really molded you. He molded you to remain connected. Yeah. Real birthing is he births you to become separate. But that separateness is the greatest testimony of unity. Because you're not connected to him by being connected to him. You're connected to him even by being completely disconnected. Because you are a manifestation of that. That's what real teachers are. That's what real mentors do. That's what real leaders do. They don't hold on. It's like, go further. Go beyond me. Be more successful. You're not going to outshine me. There's some teachers and leaders, you could be big, but don't outshine me. You know what I mean? Just, we're not going to get into details here, but everybody could understand. As long as you don't outshine me, gesundheit. But that's all koichi, yeah, nemlich zu meiner Beste, yeah. That's all a form of abandonment. That's koichi v'otzim yadi. The reason the leader needs that is because he's not fully healed. He needs the person to still give him credit. The true leader is somebody who has an etzem. When you have an etzem, you don't need oir. You typhus what I'm saying? Because you are. You don't need the oir. Oir is always light that other people experience. The more you're in touch with your etzem, the less you need your oir. Ata. And you see it practically. The leader who needs to have the people dependent on him doesn't have a healthy etzem. It's like the husband who can't deal with the wife being successful, the wife who can't deal with the husband being successful, parents who become jealous of their children, teachers who become jealous of their students. And I don't mean necessarily in, dramatic, crazy ways, even very subtle. The husband sees that his wife he doesn't like it. The wife doesn't like what she sees. These are things that happen a lot. They're very subtle. You see your child becoming independent. I liked him when he was 2 years old. He was cute. When you were cute, now you're not cute anymore. Now you have opinions. I don't like when you have opinions. I'm the only one who's supposed to have opinions. You're supposed to repeat my opinions to the world. So what is it? I don't have a true core. When you have a true core, you don't need oir. You wanna give oir when you want to give oir. When you want to be mashpia, give oir, but you don't need the oir. You don't need the oir for your survival because you have etzem. So tzimtzum is not really a denigration in oir. Tzimtzum is an elevation in oir. Chassidus says tzimtzum is iskalalus ha'oir ba'atzmusai. Tzimtzum is revealing that Hashem is not defined by light. He could be defined by non-light as much as he's defined by light. He's not defined by expression. He can be defined by lack of expression as much as he's defined by expression. He's defined by expression, and he's defined by ato. It's not expression. And it's not a less definition. The real person, when he's not giving, when you're alone in your world, your resources are not depleted. We appreciate the revelation. If I want my teacher to speak to me, I want him to speak. I don't want him to be quiet. But in terms of himself, where is his true identity and confidence expressed more? His yichaylas shaloi lahayit. It's the same me. I was speaking 2 weeks ago, and I was speaking to a group of teachers and educators, and who, some of them, very successful teachers. Kabbalah, Pnimi, Satayr, Chassidus was a conference over there. So, and it came to me, it was Friday night, I was thinking about it, and then I spoke by Shalosh Chassidus, I said it. I said, I want to tell you something interesting. I grew up by the Rebbe. I saw the Rebbe. It was an interesting thing. The Rebbe's life, the Lubavitch, was very, very rich life. But he said, what was the interesting thing? His private life was much more rich than his public life. In other words, as rich, as interesting and captivating and inspiring and enthralling and mesmerizing and holy his public life, his private life was much, much, much more rich. And you could feel it, you knew it. In other words, whatever was revealed, it wasn't even 1% of what was really going on inside. And there's a Maisa where Reb Mendel Haradoker, Reb Mendel Vitebsker, that his Talmidim asked him to show him a tzaddik nister. They want to see a concealed tzaddik. So he said, I'm a tzaddik nister. You're looking at one. So they said, you're not a tzaddik nister, you're revealed. He said, Achun vei, if I would be a tzaddik based on how much you think I'm a tzaddik. You hear? That's called etzem. No, arrogant people don't speak like this. They're very calculated. They don't say this. They want you should say they're a tzaddik nister. They pay for the ad to say the tzaddik nister. They pay for the hesped. Humble people could say, I'm a tzaddik nister. Right? Moshe Rabbeinu could write in the Torah, I am the humblest person on the whole world. Right? He wrote it. I didn't write it. I wasn't asked to edit that verse. Nobody was. Moshe Rabbeinu wrote it. Va'ish Moshe anav moed mekol adam asher pnei hatama.
And he didn't make any mistake, didn't skip any letters.
And he was the greatest prophet, and God spoke to him face to face. Only a humble person could write, you're the humblest person in the world. You know why? Because that's also not him. Because there's no koichi v'otzim yod, that's also not him. Your humility is also not you. What are you going crazy for? So you're humble, so what? The Talmidim of the Maggid were talking about the ego, what to do with the ego. Yeah. So everybody had a different opinion. Crush it, smash it, destroy it, neutralize it, threaten it. Yeah. They asked the Alter Rebbe, you know what he said? He said 4 words. He said, I don't understand the question. Hagaive v'hagdula l'chayei lamim. You made a whole problem with your ego. What's the issue? Yeah. That's the word. Koichi v'otzim yadi is an illness. It's a pathetic nebach illness. Was wärst in his Paul? It's a desperation to hold on. It's literally built investing in his Ponzi scheme. Whatever, he's already in the next world, so I'm not going to say names. But a few years ago, there was a Ponzi scheme for $50 billion, yeah? People invested millions and millions, and they were so happy. Eli Wiesel, Olav Shalom, he had a foundation, for Holocaust Foundation. He had, I think, 8 million of it. Everything got lost. Imagine, you invest in a Ponzi scheme, you come home to your wife, and you're like, I made the greatest investment today. Never. You made nothing. That's what investing in the ego looks like. Of course, there's anxiety. Moshe's humility, of course, yeah, I'm the most humble guy in the world, of course, yeah. You think the Baal Shem Tov didn't know who he was? You think the Alter Rebbe didn't know who he was? It was not a stid, if I cared, they were more humble. Of course, so the Mendel Haradoker, of course he could say I'm a tzaddik nister. When you're really humble, you say, yeah, I'm a tzaddik nister. You don't know who I am. But that's so true. The etzem is always more rich than the oir. What you see from the Rebbe at best is a little oir that you're capable of seeing. Even the oir you don't see. You see a little oir. The etzem, you know what that is? That's everything. That's yichaylis lahoyer, yichaylis shaloi lahoyer. You know, there's great people. The closer you get to them, the less impressive they are. When you really get close to them, it's like, oh my God, get me out of this place.
He's so deep with this.
In other words, their oir is much more impressive than their etzem, which means it's fake. The sun is much more hot when you get to the sun than it is here. It's not less hot. You understand? Because it's real. Because it's not a fake creation. The ray of the sun is amazing, but you can't compare it to the sun. Like, don't get too close. And we don't get too close to the sun for good reason. Whenever the oir is more impressive than the etzem, you understand that it's manipulation.
Is that the same thing with another sheker?
Of course. So you have great people. I heard once from Rabbi Adin Steinzelt. Rabbi Adin, he was very good sense of humor. He said there's great people, yeah? He says they look like peacocks. You ever saw a peacock? It's beautiful. You know, when it raises its feathers, it's colorful. It's majestic. It's splendid. It's expansive. It's grand. He says they have feathers of a peacock. He says, but then when you cut off the feathers, they are as ugly as a chicken. Like, you know those chickens by Kapotas, what they look like? So that's what they are. He calls it peacock greatness. A very powerful description, you understand? Tzimtzum is not a denigration of the oir. It's an elevation in the oir. It reveals that you're not defined by revelation. You could be defined other ways too. And in every person, what that means is, pray in a very practical way. I may be a tree, and I may produce peaches, and the peaches are delicious. But achanvei, if I define my quality and my value based on the peach that you ate. So imagine the tree sees that you took the peach, and the tree says, no, could you compliment me? And you tell the tree, wow, this peach is amazing. It's amazing, it's true. But how much more does the tree have than this one peach? It has so much more. And it's true, it's not the best mashal because ultimately the tree is here to produce the peach. But I'm just giving you an example. When we reduce our whole life to the peaches that we produce, and that's it. The real life is much deeper, so much more deeper. So the tzimtzum represents you're not defined by oir. And that's what creates real teachers, real leaders, real parents, real mentors. I don't need to shine. I could not shine, and it's actually much more interesting. Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't joking when he said, send somebody else. Now, if Hashem would have sent somebody else, not Moshe Rabbeinu, where would Moshe Rabbeinu be today? Nobody would even know his name. Like another billions of people who lived 3,000, I don't know his name, I don't know their name. You don't even know the name of your great-great-great-great-grandfather. His name was Yankel Schmedel Salzberg. Yeah? He lived in Galicia, and you don't know about him. God knows about him. I don't know about him. Where would Moshe Rabbeinu be? Hashem had to get angry at Moshe. He wasn't joking. He was like, much better. Thank God. If I wouldn't have it, I'm a chaya. You understand? For some people, everything is about the public, and for Moshe, it was actually a denigration. So the real tzimtzum is an aliyah in the oir. From the perspective of the recipient, it's a yeridah, it's a tzimtzum, it's choshech, it's darkness, it's concealment. It's a hindrance, because I'm not getting it. But from the perspective of the oir, it's actually an aliyah, it's an expression of the ata. It also expresses, but it expresses the intimate essence of the yichaylis shaloi lahoyer. So in the two streams of lamata adin tachlis and lamayla adin ketz, it's a reflection of yichaylis lahoyer, yichaylis shaloi lahoyer, which is really all one. It's one, it's atzmos.
Master, the people are suffering of it, man. The people are experiencing suffering. So what's the difference?
So you're saying, but Lapoyel, the person is experiencing the darkness. So this is the nekuda here. We spoke till now about the tzimtzum in the oir shaloi kipshutai. Right? The tzimtzum in the oir shaloi kipshutai. Here he adds another word. Since the oir is manifesting the Moyer, since the Oir is manifesting the source, the Moyer, so therefore, since in Hashem there's the Yechilas Shaloi Lahayir, so because of that, it comes out not only in the Tzimtzum of Oir, where there's a presence of Gilui, but even in the Helam of Koichi Vaitzim Yadi. That what is it be'emes? On one level, it looks like God is not present. God is gone. Chas v'shalom. That's what it looks like. Because it's not just a tzimtzum in the oir. It's complete. It's like koichi vaitzim yadi. I'm God. It's the greatest form of abandonment. Comes the Rebbe and says, what is this bepnimiyus? Bepnimiyus, it's oirein soif lamayla adin ketz. That's what it is. What you're looking at is oir. You're just looking at the way the oir is in a tzir, in a form of lamayla adin ketz. Or to put it differently, it's really ata. What you're looking at is ata. Don't think for a moment that the infinity in the Ein Sof, the Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi, is not present here, because this is the greatest change that ever happened. The redemption of it happens when you realize and you discover energetically and experientially that this very state of darkness, of Toiv Avodah v'Choshech, is the embodiment of Ata. And the embodiment of Ata doesn't look like light. It's really the expression, of Yecholtoi Shaloi Lahayir. You hear what he's saying? In other words, I could touch the darkness in two ways. Now, this is a painful moment in the Maimer, because we're dealing with real darkness. And it's not taking away from that. Like, as we said, this Maimer is not trying to amputate or minimize or numb or deny or surpass or suppress. But it's trying to heal. When I'm touching, this sometimes you're touching in life a moment of light. Diminished light, small light. Yeah. But there's some light. It's like the student getting some light. So you could say, here it's all to give you everything, but it's coming in a diminished form. But here I'm touching the actual wound, the wound of abandonment, the wound itself. Yeah. Or to put it this way, after the person is dropped, there's getting up and trying to climb back. So it's a process, it's tedious, it's grueling, but there's a process there. But the drop itself, that moment of darkness, or what he says here in Avodah, the need to be able to say the river is mine, to be able to take that away from Hashem, to wrestle his authority from him and take it to me. How tragic. That's the moment of darkness. The choshech v'vayu al pnei sahim. If you crack the code on it, you're going to see it's all Ata. It's Ata. What do we mean it's Ata? What this is called Ata? This is Ata. Because Yecholtoi Shaloi Lahayir is as really divine as Yecholtoi Lahayir. Hashem doesn't have to look like Hashem. Hashem could sometimes look like the exact opposite of Hashem. Darkness. Yecholtoi Shaloi Lahayir means the essence doesn't have to look anyway. It doesn't have to look like light. Yecholtoi Shaloi Lahayir is as real as Yecholtoi Lahayir. It's Ata. What does Ata look like? I don't know what it looks like. It doesn't look like anything. It could look like light. It could look like the exact opposite. It has no look. What does that do for the person? What it does for the person is you could remain present. You're not abandoned. You're not detached. You're not broken.
There is a light or darkness, you're with me.
Gam ki elech begeit salmavis lo yirara kiyata imadi. Right? What's pshat kiyata imadi? Not just kiyata imadi, you're looking. Kiyata imadi, very good. Kiyata imadi, the ata is with me, not the oir. Taka, there's no oir. I'm not denying that there's no oir. You have now a deeper relationship. You're touching Yecholtoi Shaloi Lahayir. But that's him. It's a manifestation. It's a manifestation of his ability to be present without presence, without expression. You say, come on, that's not presence. Well, that's atzmos. It's not presence, you're right. It's not presence of oir, it's presence of ata. In fact, there's a niggin of the Alter Rebbe. I don't know if you know. There's a niggin of the Alter Rebbe on these words. Achinata kel mistater. Yeah. Oh, achinata ata kel mistater. Oh, achinata ata kel mistater. Oh, yeah, boy, yeah, da bam, bam, ba, yeah, ba, yeah, yeah, ba, 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 ba. Oh, achinata. Now, it's interesting when you hear this niggin. You can hear a certain thirst, a lamentation, but you can also hear a note of joy, of celebration. There's a lot of hope here. It's not just a depressing song. Why did he choose these words to make a niggin when the words are saying basically, you're hidden? The pshat is that this is the greatest simcha. That's why he made a niggin on these words. Choose other words. Choose nice words. Whatever, choose nice words. Geschmacka words. Animam, and there's plenty of nice words in Tanakh or in davening. But this was the whole vart. The moment you know that it's ata kel mistater, it already changes the whole energy. Doesn't mean that it's easy. Doesn't mean it doesn't look like soyev avoyev v'chayshech. It does. But what is it? It's the yicholte. The soul knows it's yicholte shaloi lahayir. It's ata. And in a way, it's much deeper ata than the oir. Because if it's coming from a place that's limiting the oir, it means it has to be higher than the oir. It has to come from the same source where the oir comes. And even more, from a deeper source, because it has to limit the gilui. So it overpowers the gilui. So it's more ata, so in a way, you have a relationship that's much deeper. And that's the reason... And even though nobody asks for it, and I said before that it's the curveballs in life, and it's the darkest experiences in life, that bring a person panim el panim, face to face with atzmos, with ata. Doesn't mean a person asks for it. We don't, right? Life is hard enough. But that's the truth of life. The truth of life is that the moments you experience your ultimate abandonment, you were actually experiencing atzmos. Even though in my experience it was not. In my experience it was real dark. And we have to have empathy for that. Not just to say, oh, everything is atzmos, it's good. That's not the fart. Because to say these words, you experience atzmos, you have to actually feel the darkness. If you're feeling it as light, you're bypassing the darkness, it's actually not atzmos. And you heard what I just said. So actually, to get to the truth of it, you have to go through the pain of the darkness, because that's the yicholte shaloi lahayir.
First there's darkness and then there's hope.
And that is what it really is. That's what it really is. And it's not an intellectual explanation for darkness. It's all, we're talking experientially. But that's the emes of it. And that's the reason also why when people go into a place of darkness, it often feels infinite. It doesn't feel like it has edges. The Navi, it says in Iyov, Kates Sam Lachoshech. God made an edge for darkness. So the Medrash says on this, everything in life has edges, including darkness. But we don't feel that. When sometimes people are in a dark space, really dark space, it has no edges. In their mind, it's endless. It's like you're in the abyss and it doesn't end. You're looking for the edges, it doesn't have edges. We think it doesn't have edges because the darkness is so powerful. The reason it doesn't have edges is because it's expressing ata. It's expressing yicholte shaloi lahayir. And atzmos taka doesn't have edges. So that's the endlessness you're feeling in darkness. In light, you won't feel that endlessness. In light, you'll often feel edges. Sometimes. If you're feeling the endless bliss of light, adarabah. But sometimes in darkness, people just feel that it's endless, because they're touching the endlessness of atzmos, the infinity of atzmos. And that taka has no edges. They're just touching the dark side of the moon. But the dark side of the moon is just the other side of the bright side of the moon. It's the ata. And the ata is deeper than the kale. So every moment of life, when I'm touching that abandonment wound, that koichi v'otzim yadi, that liya oidi v'aniyas asini, that feeling that I have to go away from God and bring it to myself, the avodah zarah, the need for independence, for not a positive independence, negative independence, for detachment. And every time I'm facing all that choshech that I'm facing, the last nekuda in the maimer here is that it's not just tzimtzum shaloi kipshuta in the oir. It's understanding that the oir is really expressing the moir. Just the oid expresses Yechalte Lahayer. But because the oid is expressing also the Mayer, so the oid has in it the quality of Yechalte Shaloi Lahayer. And that's why the oid goes through a tzimtzum. So the part of the oid that breaks through tzimtzum, that's Yechalte Lahayer. The part of the oid that goes into concealment, that's Yechalte Shaloi Lahayer, the way it's expressed in oid. So at every stage of the tzimtzum, it expresses also Yechalte Shaloi Lahayer through the tzimtzum. But it's all Shaloi Kipshutai. Why is it Shaloi Kipshutai? Because first of all, in Atzmus there was no tzimtzum. In Oid HaBligvul there was no tzimtzum. In Oid HaGvul there is no tzimtzum. Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi. And now we come to the last step. Even the way the Oid is expressed in complete darkness, it's also Ani Hashem Lo Shanisi. Why? Because this is the way the Oid is capturing the Ata, the Yechalte Shaloi Lahayer. And Sof Kol Sof, we say this is part of the Oid. Because Sof Kol Sof, when we get to the core, there's no duality anymore. The Yechalte Lahayer, Yechalte Shaloi Lahayer is all one. So the Oid and the absence of Oid is also one. Because the Oid is just expressing Yechalte Lahayer. The absence of Oid is expressing the same thing. It's expressing the Yechalte Shaloi Lahayer. They're really one. They're really one Nekuda. In our experience, we call it two experiences and we combine it. But in the ultimate moment of redemption, of coherence, the two are one. Yechalte Lahayer, Yechalte Shaloi Lahayer. Yes. You started to ask something. I just wanted to finish what I was saying, so I stopped you, yeah?
It seems so paradoxical because
Oh, yeah.
on one hand,
You could say that again, yeah?
on one hand, if the person looks at themselves, not a Mar and not an Oid, and that's apparently expressing Hashem. But on the other hand, Chassidus demands from us to change the world. So in order to do that, you have to be a Mar, you have to be a Oid.
Avada.
So work together.
Avada. How does it work together? Because we need to change the world. Yeah. So that's what I gave a mashal of the Rebbe. Yeah. The Rebbe's entire life was Oir. But still, the etzem was infinitely more rich than the Oir. Because Oir by definition is tailor-made. It's the peach that the tree produces. It has to be. Because Oir is about communication. And communication is about the recipient. It's not about the giver. That's why the etzem is so much more rich than the Oir. But here's the key. The tachlis is the Oir. But for the Oir to really be healthy and successful, it has to come from an etzem. You understand what I'm saying? If the sun and the moon would go into a depression every time, yeah? You'd look at the moon and you're like, I had enough, I'm tired, I'm going to sleep. And the moon would have an existential crisis, call up its therapist 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's like, the guy doesn't like me. What would happen to the moon? Maybe that's why it waxes and wanes. It has so many depressions.
Because the sun sends his light and the moon reflects it.
Eineinu me'iros kashemesh v'chayereach. I think the holy Piasetzna, Reb Kloinim Eskalman of Piasetzna once said, Eineinu me'iros kashemesh v'chayereach. He says, shine like the sun and the moon. If somebody's looking at them and receiving their light, beautiful. And if not, they don't stop shining. They're good.
They have no choice.
I understand, but everything is a lesson for us. Well, we do have a choice. They don't have a choice, but we do have a choice.
It's like the story on Motzei Shabbos.
Huh?
It's like the story that you said on Motzei Shabbos, the Afanai B'Mitzik.
Yeah, always mafanei b'mitzich. Of course you want to change the world, but if you're changing the world is going to be the definition of your value, and you're going to keep adjusting your self-image based on the validation or lack of it from the person receiving your light, you will ultimately will not have any light to give because you'll just be feeding off the people and trying to please them. So instead of changing the world, you're being changed by the world. Atamevin. The only way you have real light to change the world is if it's coming from etzem. If my light is based on your feedback, right? So basically it's constantly changing, it's vulnerable. So instead of me giving you light, you're telling me what light to give. And you know how torturous that is, right? That's what's so painful for so many people. They don't know their light. They're waiting for the feedback for other people to tell them what type of light they have. You like my light? Okay, Baruch Hashem, let me do more. Oh, you hate it? Okay. What the guy said, there was a Jewish comedian. He said, I'm a man of principles. And if you don't like my principles, I have other ones. You understand how many principles, how principled he is? You never heard that one? It's a good one. I always have other ones. It's fine. You don't like my light? Okay. It's like a magician, the puppet show. What do you know? He has, what is it called? A box with tricks. What do they call it? A repertoire of tricks, of jokes. You don't like this light? I'll give you another light. You want red light? You want green light? You're not even giving light. Right? It's like Jews who are trying to appease the world. You're supposed to be a light unto the nations. If you are you, then you have what to give. If I'm trying to see if you're going to like me, I'm not giving you anything. You're giving me. That's why you're so resentful. That's why the world is the most resentful of Jews when Jews are spineless. Because they know that they want to receive the light from Har Sinai. So stop doubting yourself. Don't wait to see if I like it. What could you learn from the President of the United States? A few things. One thing is, he says what he thinks and he's not waiting for the New York Times to compliment him. Because you'll have to wait for another 1 billion years. I'm saying there's something to learn. Right?
12 o'clock on Saturday.
12 o'clock on Saturday, yeah.
He knows his answer.
Huh?
He knows his
In his own way.
He didn't specify if it's Israeli time or New York.
What did Rabbi say? What no Jew has said it.
Let's hope Israeli time. It's earlier, huh?
It's like kechatzos, but
Yeah, kachatzos. Miyad heinegolan, huh?
What Rabbi said, what no Jew had said in the year.
Yeah. You're typhus what I'm saying? Of course we have to change the world. The tachlis is not to stay in etzem. Hashem created the world. He was Megala Oir. But for the Oir to be real Oir, it needs to come from you. And that means when you have to hold back the light, you can hold back the light. So that's why Tzimtzum in Chassidus is called Aliyah Achar Aliyah, Iluy Achar Iluy, Hiskalalus Batzmusai. The Tzimtzum wasn't the Ur going away, being suspended, being obliterated. It was the Ur being subsumed in the essence. In other words, what's present in the place of Tzimtzum? Atzmus. That's the word. Pre-Tzimtzum, Oid is present, and that's why there's no room for the worlds. Because if Oid is present, everything is Ein Sof. What happened with the Tzimtzum? The Oid is Nichlal, the Oid is swallowed up, the Oid is subsumed in Atzmos. It's like the ray goes back to the core, doesn't come out. So in the place of the Tzimtzum where there's nothing, there's no Oid, there's Atzmos. That's what Alter Rebbe said, Tzimtzum was never in Atzmos. Tzimtzum was in Oid. Even in Oid it's Shaloi Kipshutah. Even in Oid, the Tzimtzum is not Kipshutah, meaning there was Taka Tzimtzum in the Oid. The Oid is suspended because we don't feel Ein Sof. We feel Gvul, but that's not a real Tzimtzum as we explained. First of all, the Oid Abli Gvul is still here. We just don't have Kalim for it. And second of all, even in the Oid that's limited, even in the Tzimtzum, it's all to grow capacity. Niti Oisav Kamaisa, that the Talmud should become like that. That's even when you're talking about the Oid. That even the suspension and the darkness and the concealment of the Oid is Shaloi Kipshutah. But if you're talking mitzad the atzmos, there's b'chal no tzimtzum. So if the tzimtzum is really the oir being subsumed in atzmos, and that's why it's not expressed. So what's in the space of tzimtzum? No revelation of oir, but what? Yeah, atzmos. And atzmos in full revelation. But revelation of atzmos doesn't look like anything. You understand? When oir is revealed, it looks like light. Huh? That's what Ur means, light. Light means it looks like light. That's what light is. Light is not darkness. Ur has a name. It's called light. What does Atzmus revealed look like? I don't know. But I know it doesn't have a name. It doesn't have a name.
Still, there's no shortcut from, you cannot cross out the Oir.
Good question. So why do we talk about Ur? Just talk about Atzmus. Say Atzmos has no tzimtzum. Even the Choshech, there's no Ur, but it's Atzmos. The Ur went back to Atzmos. So you have the Etzem Atta, it's deeper than Kael. Ochin Atta Kel Mistata. But that's not how it works. Even the Lashon in the Maimon is, the Lashon in Zohar is Oid Ein Sof L'Mayla Den Ketz. He doesn't say Ein Sof L'Mayla Den Ketz. Oid Ein Sof L'Mayla Den Ketz. The Baal Shem Tov says the goes from Aleph to Taf, and then the goes into Tayyuv Avaya. He keeps on going back to The is in Helam Acher Helam Echer. He doesn't just say Atzmus is Helam Acher Helam Echer. So that's a very powerful Nakuda, because Sof Kol Sof, we want Remember, in Galus, you have the whole Etzem. Atta is here, right now. All darkness is Atta. But we still call it Galus. We still call it Choshech. Why are you calling it Choshech? Call it Atzmus. The answer is because experientially, it's Choshech, it's darkness. The Chiddush of Oir is the experience of oneness. Not just oneness in the true essence, but the embodiment of oneness. That's that you could feel it and it's you, it becomes you. That's why, Sof Kol Sof, we talk about Oir. That the ultimate healing is not just to say everything is Atzmus. It's true. And Atzmus, there's no Tzimtzum. And it's all Atta.
There's no wounds to heal.
Huh?
And there's no wounds to heal.
And really, if you experience it from the place of Atzmus, it's all Yechalter Shaloi Lahayir. So not only was there not an abandonment, but you're actually touching the deepest Atta. In this very Choshech, this is it. Like you said, Gam Ke'el B'geit Salmavis Loira Ki Atta Imandi. And we say in Tehillim also, Im Esak Shamayim Sham Atta Vatzia Sha'oil Hineka. That's all Emes Betachlis. So why are we talking about Oir? Because Oir means the way it's revealed, the way it's manifested, the way it's experienced. That Sof Kol Sof, the Lamaila Adin Ketz, is in the Oir. The Oir in Sof is Lamaila Adin Ketz. So that means that when you pierce through the Helam, you're going to find Oir. That Atzmus is there and there was no Tzimtzum, there's Emes. It's Emes. But the Chiddush here is even a deeper Chiddush. That it can all be, ultimately it's all going to be experienced that way. In the world of Oir, which is the world of our feelings, of our energy, of our existence, where the whole rupture started. Because in Atzmus, there was no Tzimtzum. There's the Choshech, it's all Yechalter Shaloi Lahayir. That's what it is. It doesn't look like Oir, it doesn't have to look like Oir. But there's a deeper step. I don't know if I could call it deeper. There's another step, and that is the Oirin Seif is L'mayla Adin Ketz. In other words, in that Helam and Choshech, it's not just an inyan and Atzmos, it's an inyan and Oir. The Oir comes out in concealment. The Oir is expressed in the Choshech, because the Oir ultimately is true Oir that reflects the Moir. So it also reflects its ability not to reflect. So in the Choshech you have the Oir also. So B'meila, when we pierce through the Choshech, obviously we're touching Atzmos, but it comes out in Oir, meaning it comes out in experience. So there's the full integration of Dira B'Tachtaina. That's why we keep on going back to Oir. We don't just say Atzmos, because again, when you're talking about Atzmos, you're talking about Atzmos. And there's taka no words over there. There's taka no words. When you're talking about Oir, you're already talking about definition. Yeah, and that's the whole word, definition. Because we live in definition. And if we taka would want to stay out of definition, then there shouldn't have been creation. It would have stayed beyond definition, and there's really no issues. And then you don't have a mime. You don't need a mimer either. Pre-creation, there was no maimarim. A mimer, as in basara mamaris nivra olam. Everything was beyond maimarim. It was atzmos. The whole union of Oid is that.
So after you touch Atzmus, you come back, you get the oil.
So it's through the Oid that you touch the atzmos also. In other words, Oid in Seif L'mayla Adin Ketz. The Baal Shem Tov says the Oid comes into Tav, and then the Oid goes into the Choshech. The Yechalter Shaloi Lahayir comes out in Oir. You hear what I said? Because in Atzmos, the two things are the same, so ultimately even in Oir, at the end, the Oir can also express the ability not to express. That Oir can express that too. Why is that important? It's a game of words, semantics, and of the Oir. Because that means I can express it. When you say the Oir can express the ability not to be expressed, in other words, you're saying that it belongs to you. You own it. Nitiyosav kamaisa, it's yours. Yeah. I want to learn literally for another 3 minutes, because this is the last paragraph. But this is the summation of the whole Maimer. The whole Maimer began, if you remember, Basi Legani. Huh?
You said it's not answering the price.
Yeah. And what he said, that in the time of war, the Melech splurges the deepest treasures that he hid for generations. He didn't even show them to anybody. Never mind use them. But in the time of war, not only does he show them, he splurges and squanders them. And even though he gives them to the commanders, but it's all for the foot soldiers. As we spoke in the first sheet, it's for the pawns. It's not for the bishop and for the castle. It's for the foot soldiers. It's not for the sophisticated, the guys in the bunker who strategize. We appreciate them. But it's the people in the front lines. They're the ones who get the oitzet, even though it's passed on through the pkidei hachayil, which represents great minds and great hearts. But it's really for the foot soldiers. And what is that? It's the oitzer. And that's to win the ultimate milchama. The whole milchama is talking here about Tzivus Hashem, Iskaf Yisitra Achere, the war to reveal the Iker Shechina B'Tachtonim Haisa, which is the ultimate source of everything. That war, for that he gives the oitzers that he never gave. To understand what the oitzer is, he started to say that the Maimer explained Oirin Soif Lamata Adin Tachlas, and then Lamaila Adin Ketz. And the Oirin Soif Lamaila Adin Ketz, that's the treasure that was hidden, that wasn't even shown. So now, after he started to explain the whole union of Tzimtzum. So now he comes back to that Nakuda. What is this Oitzer? So now we understand. This Oitzer is this Nakuda, this secret, this experiential secret. We're calling it a secret because it remains a secret because there was a Tzimtzum, right? If there wasn't a Tzimtzum, it wouldn't be a secret. But because it's a Tzimtzum, we're calling it a Soid. That's why you call it Soidus. So a secret doesn't mean that nobody knows about it. You could know about it, but it's still a secret because you're touching something that's very hidden. So that's the Oitzer. That's what he finishes. In the last page. This is the treasure that's given to win the war. It's not only you give the soldiers the lamata adin tachlis, which means more light and more light, even if it's a little bit form of light to hold on to. No, you're splurging, you're mavazbes, the treasures. When you say a treasure, it means it's concealed. Right? The word oitzer is like a storage. It's concealed, like an oitzer. An oitzer, you say, it's gefunden an oitzer. It means something that's been stored away, that's hidden, that's clandestine. The crown jewel. What does this mean? This is the Lamaila Denket, which is the Helam, Achahelam, Ilui, Acharilui. In other words, what you're giving them is that which is concealed. You're empowering a person that all of that in your life, which is concealment, that's what I want to give you. Why do I want to give you concealment? I want to give you the oitzer in the concealment. You're not giving concealment, you're giving the truth of the concealment, the depth, which is the Oirin Soif Lamaila Adin Ketz, the concealment Adin Fanaitim. That's the greatest treasure you can give your child, you can give a person, you can give a soldier in this war is to crack the code of the Tzimtzum. Which means to reveal the Oitzer, the Helam Achahelam, the Ilui Acharilui. Why is this important? Because this is the secret of victory. This is how you win. This is the victory. Ka'amor, like we said, even though it's given by the king to the pkidim, pkidim are the generals, the commanders. They're the ones who have it, but it's not for them. It's not for them to sell it on eBay or to put it in the safe. It's for them to give it to the soldiers. Because they're the ones who are the foot soldiers, who are winning the war in actuality. So this is saying the profound word. All of this was revealed through the Baal Shem Tov, through the Maggid, through the Alter Rebbe, etc. Like he brings all the names, the Mittler Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek Rebbe, Marash Rebbe, the Rebbe, that's the Rebbe. It's all, so those are like Pkidei HaChayil, but they knew right away we're just channels. This is the revelation that the world needs. Shenikraim tzivus Hashem shemel shemanatzim kumei shem shebitzis mitzrayim nekru b'nei Yisrael b'shem tzivus Hashem kumei shekasav yotzu called tzivus Havayim eretz Mitzrayim al tzivusim. Just like when they left Mitzrayim, that's the first time we're called tzivus Hashem, like it says in Parashas by all the tzivus Hashem, the troops of Hashem left Egypt. The Navi Micha says that the way we, just like we went out, just like the days when you left Mitzrayim, I'm going to show you wonders in the time of when Mashiach comes. So the Navi compares the wonders of Mashiach's coming to Yitzias Mitzrayim. So just like then we were called Tzivos Hashem. Now also leaving the ultimate galus, we're called Tzivos Hashem because this is the core. Because the whole avodah during the galus was going out to this war. So that's why we're called Tzivos Hashem by Yitzias Mitzrayim. And the same name is going to apply to this generation. You take the Eitz, the Gemara speaks about the treasure of Yerushalayim. So this is what he touches. What's the ultimate Eitz of Yerushalayim? It's not only you fear heaven. The Eitz of Yerushalayim is talking about the relationship to Yerushalayim that touches the Lamai Adin Ketz. That's the real Eitz of Yerushalayim. Shal Yadei Mekablim Gamas Eitz Shalamayla. Through the Eitz of Yerushalayim, one receives the ultimate treasure of Hashem. Umenatzchem es hamalchama. So that we could be victorious and triumphant in the war. And as it says by Yitzias Mitzrayim, Bnei Yisrael yotzim biyad rama. The Jewish people go out with an outstretched arm, with pride, with exaltedness. Ayidei Mashiach tzidkenu, bekarev biyameinu, speedily in our days. Amen v'amen. That Rabbi Klugsman does. He sends me a text usually within an hour to summarize the shir. You should send it to everybody, huh? That's powerful. There's a millisecond between stimuli, not thought, between stimuli, meaning somebody says something or does something and it stimulates a reaction. It's the signal, like let's say I say something to you, somebody says something to you, right? You right away feel something, you respond. But between you reacting and you feeling that, between me saying it and you reacting, there's a split second. Over there, if you pause, yeah, you go back to the etzem rather than the oir. Yeah. In other words, there's a natural reaction. Right? If you're going to punch me, I'm going to pick up my hand, right? It's a natural reaction, huh? Yeah. A reflex. We have healthy reflexes, we have unhealthy reflexes. So I'm going to go like this. Right? That's the natural expression. The same is true emotionally. If you say something to somebody, or you do something, or you text something to somebody, they're going to react. They're going to become uptight. They're going to become nervous. They're going to become angry. They're going to become anxious. They're going to express a certain energy, right? If you right away do that, you're just you're just falling into a cycle that's consistent, and there's no change. There's no growth. If you can pause and say, "What? Okay, I just respond. Wait." You take control of your oir. The only way you can take control of your oir is you go back to the source of the oir. Once you're in the oir, once the sun sent out the ray, the sun can't take it back. Once you're in the ray, you're part of that. You're just expressing. You're part of the problem. You're a victim. You have to go back to the place where it came from. That's very hard for people. You understand? Because it's already, the energy is unleashed. But that's the only way you could control it. You go back and then you say, oh wow, where did it come from? What just happened? And then you can make a choice. Should I express myself that way? Maybe it was a very good reflex. Or maybe, still, you got to rethink. It's being curious, it's being inquisitive. And then you have choice over your reaction. You're not responding, but you're initiating. Verstehst? And that's if you do it 60 times. If you do this 60 times, you create a new neural pathway. And when you create a new neural pathway, after 60 times, there's already, your response is going to be different. Your reaction will be different. Because there'll be another neural pathway. It says, Efshenisht. Yeah, on the highway it says there's an exit. Maybe take the exit. There's traffic here, yeah? There's an accident here. Maybe take the exit. That's a new neural pathway. Oh, there's another path. But if a person never did that, there's only one highway. Even if there's an accident, and if there's traffic every day, people go on the GW every single day, 5 o'clock. They're stuck for an hour, and they know they're stuck. One of the greatest compliments I got from a Yid here in Muncie is, he goes to Manhattan every day. And he comes home and there's terrible traffic. And he said, I used to dread it. I hate it. He said, then I started to listen to your shiurim. And Baruch Hashem, you don't stop. So now, as long as the traffic is, your shiur is always longer. right? You always extend. So he says, now actually I look forward to the traffic because I can get to the end of the shiur. The problem is, he says, when there's no traffic, and then I'm like hoping, could there be a little traffic? Because I need to at the end of the shiur. So that was a compliment that a Jew says, that he prays for traffic on the GW. So he should be able to learn Chassidus. That was a big compliment. No. Oh, on Monday I'm away. I'm going to Florida for a day. So we're going to have a shiur Be'ezer Hashem Wednesday and Tuesday for the women, and then Wednesday and Thursday. I have an event Sunday night, so Monday morning there won't be a shiur. Shabbos we're here, Be'ezer Hashem, but Monday morning there's no shiur, okay? We'll have Wednesday and Thursday, Bli Neder. Start a new mimer. Maybe we should just do Chazara on this mimer. It's Kedai to Chaza the mimer. This is a mimer that's life. It's not learning, it's life. I guess we could put it in Shemus, no? Unless somebody wants to take the mimer. If you want to take it, you could take it. Oitzer Shel Yireh Shamayim, yeah? Yeah, Yireh Shamayim. Looks good. Real Yireh Shamayim. Real Yireh Shamayim. That's what the Baal Shem Tov's father told him. Don't fear anybody and anything. What was well worth it? Hoidu Lashem Kitov, that was Zeicha to learn the Rebbe's Torah. That's all you could say. Ashreinu ma tov chalkeinu, o ma noyim goyd aleinu, ma yafa Yerushaseinu. Basi Legani Tovshin Chafei, me Rebbe, okay. Chazak ve'amatus. Was Teufels gewähnt? Nein, Heche von Tzimtzum.
Darkness without edges.
Thank you for finishing. I say I have one of those moments. My wife says, ask my daughter to call my other daughter. So no, because she needs okay to. And I said, no, let her call me.